Hey, let's catch up with some Spurs news and notes that you may have missed. Then ask, are the Spurs building the right team around Wemby?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs and the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs beat writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. We appreciate it. Subscribe to wherever you get your favorite podcasts, such as iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube, and so many other platforms. And by the way, TGIF, everybody. Yeah, you made it through the whole week. You also made the smart choice by coming here to Locked On Spurs once again. So what are we talking about today? Well, I'm going to catch up with some Spurs news and notes that you may have missed, and then bring in our guest, Hector Ledesma, with, as far as a contributor with Valley Sports, and he's also a Spurs writer. We're going to be discussing if the Spurs are building the right team around Wembanyama moving forward, and then talk about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans. You guys are leaving a bunch of comments. We picked two. Find out what y'all had to say in a few short minutes. But first, and right off the bat, Summer League roster has been announced. The Spurs have revealed who will be playing out in Las Vegas starting tomorrow. It will consist of the usual suspects. Stephon Castle will be playing. Harrison Ingram, the other rookie, will be playing. Sidi Sissoko will also be on the squad. Also, Spurs guy Jamari Bouye will be on it as well. And for those of y'all who are wondering, like Raekwon and all those, remember Raekwon got traded, so he's no longer with the Spurs, he's with the Bulls. Other notable names: Jameer Nelson Jr., the son of former NBA guard Jameer Nelson, will be playing. Just a big list of names. Hopefully one of these guys will stick around and show out during the Summer League out in Vegas. Now the Spurs will be kicking things off or tipping things off July 13th, Saturday, against the Blazers in Las Vegas to start their Summer League play. That's will be on ESPN2. By the way, the first game against the Blazers is going to be interesting because it's going to be Stephon Castle and Donovan Clingan, two former teammates there at UConn, going against one another. But Castle had to talk about that yesterday, saying he's looking forward to facing off his former teammate. So why don't we hear what he had to say? Stephon Castle had to say about the Summer League and taking on Clingan.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I feel good to be here. It was good to get a little practice in while I was here too, kind of break the ice. But I mean, it's gonna be cool just to be on the court with Donovan again, and especially in this kind of setting. So I mean, this is what we worked for. So I mean, it's gonna be good to be out there. Not recently, but when the schedule first came out, I definitely let them hear a little something. But I mean, it's just gonna be a fun competitive game. I'm ready to see how it goes. Yeah, for sure. I feel like our team's really on the uphill right now. I mean, we had a good practice today. Had a great showing, or a great last showing in sack. So, I feel like we got a lot of momentum coming into Vegas right now. So, we just want to go out there and try and win games. Kind of, just keep playmaking, trying to, kind of run the offense as much as I can a little bit. Be more efficient. Just kind of try and show that I got an all-around game.
There you have it, Stephon Castle talking about going into Las Vegas. I like how he ended that by saying he wants to show out more about that he has an all-around game. He's not pigeonholed into just shooting guard or point guard, that he can do it all. Showed flashes of that out in Sacramento in 2 games. Hopefully he'll continue that as well. Ingram also spoke. He said he's also looking forward to showing out. He's a little nervous because his whole family and friends will be there out in Las Vegas. But nevertheless, your Summer Spurs get things going tomorrow to start the Las Vegas Summer League. In other Spurs news, the Silver and Black have released their preseason schedule. 2024 preseason schedule is out. They'll be hosting 3 games at the Frost Bank Center, and then they'll have 2 away games to close out the preseason. You're looking at games Monday, October 7th versus the Thunder. That'll be in San Antonio. And then they'll follow that October 9th against the Magic again in San Antonio. Then they'll host the Jazz October 12th in San Antonio. Those are 3 home preseason games. The 2 road preseason games will have them going to Miami on October 15th. And then rounding out the preseason play against the Rockets October 17th. Tickets are now available. Go get your tickets for some preseason action. Can't believe we already got the preseason schedule out already. Wow. That was pretty quick. In other Spurs news, former Spur Danny Green will be hosting basketball camps in throughout Texas. Now, he had one yesterday in San Antonio. But if you missed out, then you have 2 more chances if you live in the state of Texas, especially South Texas. He'll be hosting a basketball camp in Corpus Christi, Texas on July 12th. That's today. If you're out in Corpus Christi, go there now from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Incarnate Word Academy. That's at 2910 South Alameda Street, 78404. And then he'll be in Edinburgh, Texas. That will be on Saturday, July 13th from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Again, that will be at the DHR Health, Sport, and Wellness Center. That's located at 315 East Palm Drive, Edinburgh, Texas, 78539. The 2 camps, or all the camps, are $75 each. So you want to go to kenspi.com/Spurs right now to sign up. All the camps include a photo with Green, 1 item to be signed by him, and of course, learning some basketball skills on and off the court, life lessons, and so much more. Not the first time we've seen former Spurs do that. George Hill recently held a camp in San Antonio, and it was a huge success. So there you have it. Danny Green hosting some basketball camps. So if you got last-minute plans, there you have it. Go take your kids out and learn some basketball skills from a former NBA champion. And there you have it, some Spurs news and notes. All right, coming up next, Hector Ledesma will be joining me. We're going to be discussing if the Spurs are putting together the right team around Wemby. This is his team, after all. He is the future. If they're doing it right, are there any missteps they're doing right now? Well, we're going to be talking about that in just a few seconds. Hey, but first I want to talk to you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. That's the winning formula for championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. You need a roof rack, you need superchargers, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. You want to go to eBay Motors. So if you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. They got over 122 million parts for you to choose from for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Look, with eBay Motors, you know that you'll be burning rubber. You'll not be burning cash. With all the parts you need for the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Again, you want to go to ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers.
A Jedi uses the Force. To subscribe to Locked On Spurs, pass on what you have learned.
And look who is back, everybody. It's been a while since Hector has been here, but he is Hector Ledesma. Follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. The Spurs beat writer for Clutch Points and a contributor for Bally Sports. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, bud. How are you?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm glad to have you back, man. It's just been so crazy over here on this neck of the woods here with Summer League and then the draft and then Spurs having conferences left and right, introducing the new players. But it's been great, man. It feels like the season never ended, Hector. Seriously, did it end?
No, and that's the way of sports. It's been that for 10, maybe 15 years, right? Where the season ends and then you go, and then the off-season events, they're actually events. They're not just free agency opened, the draft. Everything's a process, everything's a deal now. So it makes it feel like it just goes forever.
I remember when the NBA offseason was an offseason, like it'll just like stop. And you'll have a little spike with the Summer League, and then it'll go back to being quiet. But yeah, now you got the Olympics in there. You got Team USA, Wemby, France. So it's basketball close to 365 days a year. But everybody, again, make sure to follow Hector on X. You see his handle right there on your screen. Do that right now. So why is Hector here? So we're going to be talking about something that I think is on a lot of Spurs fans' minds, is a combination of the future and the current rebuild, building a team around Wemby, the moves that Brian Wright and the Spurs have been making. The overarching umbrella here is, are the Spurs doing right by Wemby? He is the focus. He is the franchise. You got to build around your guy. He is the guy. And Hector, Spurs have been busy, somewhat, involved in trade rumors allegedly and drafting and picking up free agents. But if this is Wemby's team, he needs to have the right components. Let's start off with the draft. Do you think they were in the right direction? Getting Castle, giving Wemby a point guard, is that a good move for him?
I think Castle's the safest pick that they could have taken. That doesn't necessarily mean, and I know that kind of comes with a negative connotation, safe, like you settled. I don't think it's a settling case. I think in this draft where there were so many unknowns, and obviously it's the draft, there's unknowns every year, right? But especially this year where there was no high-end guy. I mean, forget the whole Wemby comparison. There was no, Paolo Banchero potentially in this draft. You know what I'm saying? Like, So with all that being said, or at least we don't think there's going to be a Paulo Banchero, right? Watch one of these guys prove all of us wrong. But as of right now, going in, you don't think there is. So all that being said, I think Castle's the guy who is a nice combination of the most ready to play now and the guy who, when it's all said and done, could be the best pro. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if when you look back, and this is hard to say, but when you look back, 10 years down the road, you look back and you're like, yeah, he's made a couple all-star games. Like, he's a very good player, one of the top 10, maybe 5 at his position. A guy you can plug in, and he's going to start for you year in and year out. And we've already seen it in Summer League. I actually did a piece on it recently about how there's a naturalness to his game. Wherever you put him, point guard, and he's the lead on the pick and roll. He's off the ball. Defensively, wherever you see him, there's a comfort level already. And to me, I think that's the hardest thing. I mean, ask Wemby. That's the hardest thing about that transition to the NBA is the skill set is there. It's the comfort level. It's learning what you can do, when you can do it, because the skill set's already there. Now, everybody has a great skill set in the NBA, obviously, but it's learning where your skills are developed to the point where you can go now, where you can be effective now. And I think Steph has done a nice job these first couple of games heading into the Las Vegas Summer League out in Sacramento of showing the Spurs, there's a natural flow to his game.
Yeah, absolutely. Hector, I'll push back a little bit. I think it's too soon to tell with Castle if he's the right point guard for Wemby. He's saying all the right things. We have a tiny sample size, 2 games against Summer League competition. No knock on that, but we haven't seen him play against the big boys. Now, you did bring up the Vegas Summer League. I think that's a good thing to note because the competition level kind of spikes a bit. You're going to have Risha Shea, Sar, his classmates there, draft classmates there, maybe some second-year pros playing out there. So I think that'll be a little bit of a better gauge, but we just don't know. We didn't know Tony Parker was going to be Tony Parker until he became Tony Parker, so we have to give him time. But I do think you're right. Castle, safe pick. Personally, I think if we're going to build around Wemby, I would have preferred a younger veteran point guard a la Darius Garland. I think that would have been really good for Wemby and the rebuild collectively moving forward. But Castle, so far so good. That defense, my goodness, he's just locking up guys in summer league play, at least through 2 games. Showing that his shot maybe just needs more fine tuning, not necessarily a complete reconstruction. So he is a solid point guard. And speaking of point guards, they brought in CP3. Again. He's more than likely a rental. We don't know, and he signed for a 1-year deal. But again, is that a good move for Wemby and his development?
Can I give a point on can I say something on the guard real quick? I think they put feelers out there on Garland.
Yeah.
When the response was multiple firsts and Keldon and other stuff the Spurs really were uncomfortable parting ways with, I think they assessed and they said, okay, is there anybody in this draft who can become, and maybe sooner rather than later in this day and age of NBA and rookie contracts, who can become a Garland down the line? I think Castle can become a Garland type guy, not his rookie year, not this year, but I think he become a Garland type guy. So how do you, but for now, so then, and Wemby's still 20. So let's say 2-3 years down the line, Castle's taking that step. You've now got your Wemby and quote unquote Garland pairing with Wemby and Castle, and you've got him for the next 10 years. Contracts included in how that whole thing works out. And you didn't have to give up any assets to get Garland now. And in the meantime, because Castle is young, you bring in a Chris Paul to help kind of serve as the bridge between that.
Yeah, and when I looked at the point guard spot, and again, I'm not trying to knock on Castle at all. Fine young prospect, fine young man. We'll see how he pans out. But if Wemby kept on, he's pretty much all but yelling it with neon signs and big signs saying, "I want to win now." Well, then your win now option is through a Garland type. I'm not saying it's him. It could have been anybody of that ilk, that form. A veteran, young guy, thriving so far. Hasn't hit his prime yet, but right there at that position. But nevertheless, they kind of comboed it. Maybe they split it. by committee, bring a young guy, Castle, and then bring in the veteran, CP3. Your thoughts on CP3 and how he helps Wemby and this forming his team moving forward?
Well, Jeff, I mean, this is how much I love that move. I thought they should have done it last year. For Wemby's rookie year, because I think Chris Paul would have been. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. Depending on the price of what it would take, would have taken him to get him last year, right? That would have been a great pairing. But I think Chris Paul is smart enough to make Wemby better, but at the same time, let Wemby be Wemby. I think Chris Paul, as much as he says he's not going to be a coach, he's going to be an extension of Pop on that court. Number one, very similar mindsets, very, very similar appreciations and kind of just insightfulness into the game. But number two, I think you look at Paul and what he's done throughout his career, and he's done nothing but elevate young guys. He mentioned Shea teaming up with him in year number 2. He's teamed up with Book. You look at what he's done the last couple of years, and although the Rockets weren't a young team when he joined them, he completely elevated that team. And I know we're going back 7-8 years now when we go back to the Rockets days, but he's a guy that's just instantly going to make you better. He's going to make Wemby better. For all that's said in today's day about how the NBA point guard has changed, at the end of the day, I think maybe the best way to define a point guard, aside from he can handle it well and he's generally smaller, right? Because we see Castle 6'6", right? Yeah. The best way to maybe define a point guard is the guy who most makes things easiest for your team offensively, the guy who gets his teammates in the best spots consistently. Let's say that's the modern definition of a point guard. That's Chris Paul. And I think Wemby at 20 is going to do nothing but benefit from having him around. And CP3 is going to put him in great spots over and over. And the game's just going to become even that much easier for Vic.
Yeah, and the pick and roll between him and Wemby is going to be insane. Harrison Barnes quipped about it, saying, "Hey, this Spurs team better lead the league in lob dunks next year." Seriously, I mean, and he maybe had been kidding, but I actually think that better be true, because with those two guys on the court, it just is a nightmare for opposing defenses. But CP3, I agree with you. The veteran point guard the Spurs team needed. Sure, it's a rental. We don't know he's going to be sticking out for the entire rebuild and once it gets out of it. But nevertheless, if you're looking at forming a team around Wemby, that means advancing his knowledge, his skill set. He gets to play with a Hall of Fame bound guy. I think that's going to work well for him. He hasn't done that yet. But do you think maybe signing CP3 I'm trying to think of the words here, Hector, not stall, but why not bring in a guy that's okay, we're just using Garland as an example. I mean, it could be somebody of that ilk, but why not bring a guy who's going to be with Wemby throughout the rebuild, that's going to be with him versus, all right, Wemby, you're good, see ya, bye. That possibly could be CP3.
That's a fair question. And I think ideally, Jeff, I think that's what they wanted to do. I think that's probably why they kicked the tires on Garland. I think that's why there was the reported interest in Markkanen. I think they would like to team Wemby with a guy, and we've got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, right? We've got Luka, Kyrie. We've got LeBron, AD. Here's the issue, though. Number one, in getting either of those guys or anybody else you might want to throw into that mix, I know Donovan Mitchell's a little bit earlier.
Trae Young,
throw a Trae Young in there. I think in each of those cases, the other team wanted more than the Spurs were willing to give. And I think it's smart for the Spurs to hold on to their assets, because when Wemby says win now, it's relative. Like if you were to sit Wemby down right now and be like, okay, like Wemby, let's talk about this honestly. Like let's this conversation out. What does win now mean? Does win now mean that you expect to make the finals this coming season? I'm more than sure Wemby would say, well, yeah, I mean, everybody's goal should be to win every year. But that being said, no, I don't realistically expect to make the finals this year. But if the Spurs win, if the Spurs near 40 games and make the playoffs after a play-in battle or something, That's significantly better than 22 wins. That is winning now, relatively speaking. So the whole win now thing, yes, he wants to win now, but it doesn't. It's specific. It's not generic to I want to win an NBA championship. It's, are we improving? Are we better than we were last year? Is your organization making strides to get us there? And I think in that way, yes, the best case scenario is team up Wemby with Luka and Giannis, right? You're set for the next 10 years. That's the best case scenario for the Spurs. That's not going to happen. So absent of that, what can you do? You try to surround him with younger pieces that can grow with him. Or at least you looked into it. Right. It didn't work out because of asking price. I agree with holding firm on a certain asking price. And so you built through the draft, get a castle, get more assets down the line, and also add some veteran guys who, oh, by the way, can still play. I wouldn't be surprised if CP3, would it surprise you if Chris averages near 10 assists per game this season?
Not at all.
It wouldn't surprise me. If he's averaging, and maybe, and for, let's I'll be a little bit more specific, because if he's getting like 8.5 assists per game, that wouldn't surprise me for CP3. I'll be honest. I'd have to look to see how many he averaged last season. I couldn't tell you offhand, but he's just such a natural. And with Wemby, pairing him with Wemby, you don't have to play 35 minutes to get his 8 assists. He was getting 13 assists when he was playing 35 minutes. You play him in the mid-20s in minutes, and he's still getting, I think 8 assists. All he needs is 2 assists per quarter to reach 8. CP3 can do that.
He do that blindfoldedly.
So just inherently, he's going to make things. He's going to make the team better. And then you mentioned Barnes. Harrison can still play. He's a quality. Harrison Barnes automatically becomes. You can say right now, if of the guys on the Spurs roster, rank them 1 through 15, whatever. I know there's cap holes and releases and things along those lines. Rank them 1 through 12. Rank them 1 through 15. You can make the argument right now that Harrison Barnes is their 3rd best player.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? After Vic and Dev. Is Keldon or better than Barnes? Is Sohan right now better than Barnes? No. Is CP3 in totality better than Barnes? So you're getting that kind of a guy as well when you get Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, I also like the fact that you can rely on Harrison. The guy's an Iron Man. Played 80. It's a rarity today, Hector, of a player playing a full season. He does that. That, and you're going to have that reliability on him. A floor spacer, lunch pail kind of guy. He's going to be the type of player that when you and I are in the locker room or in the press conference and we're getting our notes or boxy, we're like, you're going to look at me, you're going to be, Jeff, Harrison's had 20 and 12? What? Right. It's like, what just happened? He does that. He positively contributes on both ends of the court.
Yes. Not to mention, Jeff, not to mention there's going to be those days where he gives you like 28. He's going to explode for that every couple of weeks. He's going to give you that kind of production in any single game.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, you're looking at the assets that they brought in, traded for, and drafted. I think they're forming a good team around Wemby heading into next season. Okay, fine. Even if CP3 is gone by midseason, the point is, at least Wemby got that taste of getting to play with a Hall of Fame guy, and then you trickle down effect, not just to the point guards, like Trey Jones and Castle, but for the entire team. I think CP3 is going to have that positive impact on the team moving forward in the rebuild and this becoming Wemby's team ultimately. Do you still feel that this team still lacks that, as you were talking about, that Luka, Kyrie, that back in the day Steph and Clay? You think that's still that missing Robin to the Batman that's Wemby?
Yes, no doubt. Okay. Now, Dev, maybe Dev takes that leap this year. Maybe Dev, and I'm gonna do. I understand totally what you were doing earlier when you were just kind of bringing up a name like Garland, like as an example.
Yeah, just an example.
Kind of like as a tent pole, right? That doesn't mean specifically, but I'm gonna do that now, just as a tent pole.
Sure.
If Dev this year becomes Tyrese Halliburton, the Spurs have their Robin, right?
Done.
Right now, he's not Halliburton, right? Like if Dev becomes Domantas Sabonis, not obviously in the style of play, but level of player, all-star caliber player. The Spurs have their Robin. And that's the thing is right now, for lack of a better term, the jury is still out on Dev because he's been around in the league by today's NBA standards to kind of gauge, okay, where is he? Where is he going to be? At the same time, if you look a lot of like for every LeBron and Wembanyama and Luka, for every one of those guys, there's a Sabonis, there's a Halliburton, there's a Shea, there's a De'Aaron Fox. There's these guys who your first couple of years they were good, and you could see them kind of coming. You're like, man, in a couple of years that's going to be good. But you had to say in a couple of years that guy is going to be good, as opposed to, man, that guy is spectacular right now. So why can't that be Dev? You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't that be Dev this coming season? So I think the long way of answering your question is, you're correct. They don't have that guy, whether it's Barnes, whether it's Dev, whether it's CP3 at this stage of his career. You know, they don't have another guy who, with Vic, two-man game, and they put you in a pickle. The Spurs would put you in a pickle late in a tight game because holy moly, you not only got to worry about Vic, but you got to worry about so and so running around out here as well. The Spurs don't have that consistently yet, but I think it's not too late to say. I think there's still time for Dev to be that guy.
You know, last season I was able to speak with a team scout, and obviously they were there, to check out Wemby. I get that, but in my discussion with them, they kept on bringing up Vassell constantly. That was the one common thread that these scouts were telling me, like, okay, yeah, Wemby's spectacular, but hey, can you tell us more about that guy? And they would point to Devin, like, what's up with him? So he's on the radar. He's on the radar, and he's right there. What's holding him back, perhaps, is, well, especially last season, was adjusting to Wemby, but the entire team had that issue about 2/3 of the season. And then, two, if he could just stay healthy, and that's what's hurting him. Well, hey, we're not done talking. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jeff, one little finishing point to that, to Dev. I mean, he's averaged near 20 points per game in each of the last two seasons. I mean, the production is there. You know, I mean, no one's calling him, no one's putting him on the same level as Luka or Giannis. But in terms of a good NBA player, he's there. The question is can he be the second best player on a team that's going to make a title run? Last year's version of Dev, and when I say title run, I mean like in terms of where you want to be eventually, right? Like where the goal is, not this coming season for the Spurs, but they were where they want to get to. Can he be the Jaylen Brown? Even though I know Brown ended up being the NBA Finals MVP, can he be Kyrie Irving? That's the question: is can he be that guy if the Spurs are to ascend to that level? And I think that remains to be seen.
Yeah, but before we get to the next segment here, we'll probably continue this a little bit more before we get to your comments, everybody. So far, I think they're building a good team around Wemby heading into next season. I don't want to say it's awesome. I don't know, it's spectacular, because there's still some unknowns. Is Castle going to be the point guard that they hope he'll be? We'll find out. Will CP3 be with the team for the entire season, or will he, get let go midway through the season and wave and he gets on to a playoff team? Same thing with Barnes. He could be flipped. This team is still in trade mode, or they're still looking to bring in, power players. I mean, marketing, there's still that whole rumor thing is still up there. We don't know what's going to happen with that.
I mean, they submitted the offer,
They submitted the offer. Yeah, we just got to see what's going to happen. I mean, Ainge plays hardball, and that's what he's known for. And we'll see. Obviously there's a lot of dates, the extension in August, blah, blah, blah. But we'll see. The point is that as of now, they are building a good team around Wemby heading into next season. But beyond next season is still unknown. But I think Wemby would be happy with the acquisitions and moves they made so far. Right, Hector? I would assume that he would be pretty ecstatic bringing in Hall of Famer and a reliable player like Barnes.
Knowing how smart and forward-thinking and just insightful and bright Vic is, they've added two very quality players, one who specifically is going to make his life much easier and make him a better player, all while not mortgaging their future when he's only 20 years old.
Bingo.
I think he very much appreciates what they've done this summer.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. We cannot stress that enough. Brian Wright has done a good job at, as of now, saving a bunch of those high-quality draft picks. We don't know. I still think he should use them to bring in a marketing, but you got them, Hector. might as well use them. You can't use them all. You can't. So if you could bring in a marketing right now, my goodness, and that's building the team for Wemby moving forward. But we'll see.
It sounds like that's a different conversation for a different day because we could spend hours on that.
I know. He is Hector.
Go ahead.
No. I was gonna say, like, I think if you're bringing marketing now, that you know what, you're right. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, I better stop right now. It's a long off season, everybody. We gotta say some of these topics.
Yeah.
He is Hector Ledesma. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. When we get back, maybe a little bit more conversation on this, but get into your comments. What are y'all talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page? This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Let's talk about BetterHelp. Sometimes you need help in life, right? Whether it's something to get off your chest, you're going through some bad times, or maybe you're going through some good times. You want to keep that going. You want to go to BetterHelp right now. They got it all. It's flexible, it's convenient, designed to work around your schedule, and they're always there for you. Look, you can even switch therapists at no time for no cost if you feel the need to. Look, sometimes you want to have somebody who's unbiased in your life and listen to you and give you their ear. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Look, sometimes you look on social media and you look like people have their lives all together. They probably don't, but in reality, you also may have issues that you want to deal with, good or bad. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have. You can start living your best life, learn positive coping skills, set boundaries, what empowers you to be the best version of yourself. Hey, it's not just not just for those who experience major trauma. It's for everyone. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, again, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists at no time for no additional charge. Stop comparing. Start focusing with BetterHelp. You want to go to betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. Get yourself 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the San Antonio Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Hector Ledesma. You see him on your screen right now. You see that X handle? Go follow it right now. He's a contributor over at Valley Sports and Spurs beat writer for Clutch Points. More on that in a bit. Hector, just a little. Okay, see, I'm not going to bring up marketing. Okay, I'm not going to bring up marketing because that's a whole other topic.
As you bring him up.
As I bring him up, right? Yeah. But if we went to your comment, we're going to get to your comments in a bit, everybody. But you just had one more thing. So building this team for Wemby, around him, surrounding him.
Yeah.
Do you think perhaps the biggest key so far, and you talked about it right before we hit the break, is that Brian Wright is preserving the future? I think that's huge and doesn't get enough attention.
Yes, that's exactly it, Jeff. And to clarify for somebody who's been watching, and thank you for watching and always supporting Jeff and all the good stuff that he does.
And you too. Come here.
Thank you. And so earlier when I said, the Spurs offers there, but they're not willing to give what the Jazz want. Right. The reason I say the whole marketing thing is another discussion for another day is because I'm not necessarily saying that the Spurs are correct in saying marketing is not worth that and the chance to pair him with a 20-year-old Wemby. I'm not saying that that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm also not saying that they're incorrect in taking that stance. Mm-hmm. I'm just simply saying, what I was saying then was that is the Spurs view. Marketing right now is not worth all those first-round picks, plus Keldon, plus Devin, plus anything else that Utah might want. Yeah. That Utah might want that we don't know of necessarily right now. But so just to clarify that related to your question. But yeah, Jeff, that's what he's looking to do is he looks at his assets as bargaining chips. And not only that, but as Wemby progresses, he wants to be able to show Wemby, hey, we have 2 first-round picks coming up in this coming draft. So, hey, even though, let's say the year is 2029 or whatever, hey, Vic, yes, we made a run to the conference finals, or we're into the conference finals, or we won the championship, or we made the finals, whatever the case may be, we're going to be picking low. But we have a first-round pick in the top 10 because of the trade that would happen a couple years ago, and we held on to it. Is that going to be the case more often than not? Probably not. They're probably going to unload them, some of those picks for something. But it also gives them that option, as they continue to build, giving Vic the sense that they're continuously looking throughout his career. Vic is only 20 years old.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, think about it, Jeff. Think about 10 whole years from now. 10 whole years from now, God willing, Vic is only going to be 30 years old. Like,
That's insane.
Vic is 10 years from now, Vic is going to be on the outer limits of his prime still.
Yeah.
Vic is arguably still going to be in his prime 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
So the Spurs are doing what they can to just continuously not only preserve that, but let him know we're thinking about you. We are in your timeline. That not only means now, that means 5 years from now, that means 10 years from now, because you got to be honest. Like they were very good throughout the years at picking in the late first rounds, right? Parker, Ginobili's a late second rounder, and then when they transition to this most recent kind of era, Derek White, Keldon, DeJounte, all late first round picks. You can't bank on that continuously happening when you're consistently drafting late in first rounds. They want to get to a point again where they're consistently drafting late in first rounds. So they're giving themselves, if nothing else, insurance for when that does happen. They've got a pick better than 28 or 29 or 30.
Right. Ace. And speaking of picks, that's exactly what one Locked On Spurs fan is talking about. Let's go and dive into your comments now. What are y'all talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page? I'm so glad you brought up the draft and the picks there, Hector. I'm so glad, because let me find that comment right here. Yep, here we go. You're gonna love this one. This is from. By the way, I love these YouTube names. This is from Labrat. So at Labrat comments. Not now. He's referring to the Spurs winning as soon as next season. We're trying for Cooper Flag. Thank you, Labrat, for that comment. But look, Atlanta would have to bottom out so bad and have the basketball gods smiling on them for 2 years in a row to get the number one pick. Do you think let's entertain that. Would you tank for Cooper Flag? Would you do a tank job again, Hector, and shoot the Spurs?
No, you can't do a tank job. Now, well, that being said, let's say CP3, knock on wood. We're knocking on wood, right? Let's say CP3 gets hurt early in the year.
Sure.
Let's say Harrison Barnes, you mentioned his durability. Let's say that's not the case this year. Let's say there's another major injury to the Spurs.
Sure.
If they're sitting there at the All-Star break, and they're 20 and 30 or 15. Maybe we're a little worse than 20 and 30. Let's backtrack. If they're like 15 and 35 at the All-Star break, maybe.
Yeah, you got no choice now. Yeah.
Maybe be very judicious with your guys for the final 2.5 months or the final 2 months at that point, because the All-Star break's always in mid-February, right? So maybe be very judicious and careful with the final 2 months of the season, a la 2 years ago, a la the last portion of the second portion of the year before. But from the get-go, no, you can't do that to Vic. You can't. Running it back would have been tanking. Would have been running it back with last year's roster. Running it back would have been like last year's roster, and then your big free agent signing is like a Doug McDermott type guy. That's running it back. You can't do that to Vic. That's the other side of Vic wants to win now, right? Like Vic's not wanting to win a championship, but Vic needs to see improvements, and rightfully so. You don't want to go out there year after year and be like, we're playing for next year. We're playing for next year, when Vic is going to be he's already very good. Vic is going to be transcendent extremely soon. Soon, man. Like as soon as this year, we could. I mean, I'll put it to you this way: the stat lines that consistently this year made us go, God, what?
Yeah.
Get ready for bigger stat lines than that.
Yeah.
And maybe even more frequently. If I had a bet right now,
help is adding CP3 and Barnes. That's going to really help them get to that next level. Yeah.
If I have to put money on it right now, I have to put $200 down, and something that like would hurt me, like $200.
Yeah.
You got to put 200 bones down, and you got to make a decision right now. Yes or no? Vic will get a quadruple double this year. I'm gonna say yes. If those are my two options, I'm gonna say yes. Think about that. $200, and you have to base. and you're going to say yes that you think a guy is going to do something that's only been done 4 times in NBA history. That's this guy's trajectory. That's the specialness of Victor Wembanyama.
I actually have Wemby breaking that record by getting multiple quad dubs in a season. Right. I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened yet. I'm really surprised. I was just banking it was going to happen in his rookie year. So he could get multiple blocks, steals, points, rebounds, assists. I don't think the Spurs should tank. Again, barring some sort of catastrophic injury, Wemby, knock on wood, goes down or something like that. But hopefully that doesn't happen. But we shall see. But thank you for that comment, Lab Rat. We appreciate it. So Hector, I don't know if you heard, but Vegas is projecting the Spurs being the second spot if Brandon Ingram does not stay in New Orleans to call his next NBA home. There's rumblings out of New Orleans that he could be on his way out. He's asking for a crazy extension, reportedly $200 million plus in an extension. We know the Spurs are penny pinchers for the most part. So one Locked On Spurs fan left a comment regarding that topic. This is from Sean Knox 5785. He only has 4 words, Hector. God, I hope not. What do you think about that, Hector? You got one fan saying hell no to Brandon Ingram. What do you think? You think the Spurs should entertain that? He is?
No, not at that price tag. He's a nice player. I mean,
he's not a bad player. Yeah.
Every time you play against him, I mean, he does some nice things. He's a good player, but I think to go back to names you mentioned before the little break, Garland, Markkanen, those are guys you want to pair up with Wemby, and you think they can grow with them. I think Ingram at that price does not match what the Spurs I think want to do or what they envision with Vic. So I would agree that no, I especially at that price, that's not something.
Yeah, it's just too much. Yeah. And we just talked about the Brian Wright preserving the Spurs' future via the draft picks, but there's also the financial side of things. They have a big amount of cap space with them. Sure, ate into a little bit with the signings, but there's still a drop in the bucket for how much money they were under the cap. And let's just face it, that those aprons in the new CBA, they're really scaring teams. They're scaring teams. No team wants to go beyond that first apron or even get close to the first apron. I mean, it's impacted the Warriors. Big reason probably why Boston was sold by ownership, because they're getting expensive. Look how much Boston's going to have to pay just to keep that core together for another run. I mean, they were beyond the second apron. So, but bringing in a guy like Ingram, and if the reports are true that he wants a $200 million plus extension, Spurs are not going to do that at all. He doesn't rise to the level, as you mentioned, Markkanen, or a bigger name free agent that you possibly get next year, because next year's free agent talent pool is insane. But we shall see. But thank you for y'all for leaving those Locked On Spurs fan comments. We appreciate it. Hector, we need to know what's going on in your corner of the world. What is going on with Clutch Sports? What do you have on deck for us? Tell us what's going on.
So doing a bunch of off-season pieces, reacting to, Barnes and Paul, those moves and those guys getting introduced. Obviously Summer League is going on.
Yep.
We'll probably write a reflective piece pretty soon on the battles between Chris Paul and the Spurs throughout the years, the playoff battles. It's interesting when you think of Spurs nemesis. Is plural for nemesis, or is it nemesis?
It's just nemesis, yeah.
It's just nemesis, right? Yeah. When you think of their nemesis throughout the years, obviously you think Shaq, Kobe, you think Dirk, but you think Nash. I think Chris Paul, you think about the 2008 7-game battle in the second round against the Hornets, right? You think about in 2015, the Clippers knocking the Spurs off in 7 in the first round with the CP3 last shot in Game 7. The one that's often forgotten is when the Spurs ran him off the court in 2013. The Spurs swept the Clippers in 2013 second round on their way to winning 20 straight games, and then they lost to the Thunder after going up 2-0 in those Western Conference Finals. 2012. I'm sorry. In 2012 is when they beat the Clippers, swept them. That was another playoff series. But the point is, they've met CP3 tons throughout the years, and those battles, you especially that 2008 series against the Hornets and the 15 series against the Clippers, they're two of the few 7 gamers that the Duncan era Spurs ever encountered, and they both and they involve CP3, you know, and so gonna do probably maybe a reflective piece on that before it gets any later, but just those kinds of things going on. And then over on the San Antonio Spurs Valley sort of things, you know, I filled in for a couple of San Antonio FC podcasts, you know, over the summer, SAFC, you know, in full season right now throughout the summer. And so, a lot of different things going on.
It's a man of many hats at Spurs. Once again, he is Hector Ledesma. Follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. Do it right now. We'll be back next week. All things silver and black. Summer League's going on. The Olympics are right around the corner. Wemby's playing. So we'll see how they're doing and so much more. Maybe the Spurs made some moves by then. We'll be back again next week, Monday. And check out Locked On Sports Today, 24-hour streaming channel only on YouTube, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's a great show. 24/7 sports on YouTube. Go check it out. And subscribe to Locked On Spurs, Ken's 5 Plus app, iTunes, Spotify. What else you got? I mean, seriously, go to any type of podcast platform. We're likely there. So for Hector Ledesma, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On.